everyone, and welcome back to the Rescue Dog Pod. I'm your host, Helen Summerfield-Brown, and thank you very much for joining us today. For anyone who's just tuning in, this is the place where we talk about all things animal and rescue, covering a wide range of topics that affect the lives of animals and the people who care about them. And if you are a returning listener, thank you very, very much. Clearly the check has arrived in the mail and I appreciate you coming back. I have been missing in action for the last couple of months, or maybe a month and a half. So apologies to all my fan base, all one of you. Thanks, Mum. We're getting back into, and we have some amazing topics this year and some amazing guests. And today's episode is an important one. And I'll be honest, some of the topics we're going to cover are a little heavy at times and difficult to hear, but it's very, very important. It's very important to have these kind of conversations. And when you have a platform like ours, it's important to use it, especially when animals don't have a voice of their own. So joining me today, and I'm going to say joining me back today to unpack all these issues, is Bianca Del Bois. Do I say that right? I never say that right, do I? Is that right?
No, you
Bianca?
do. Yeah,
Oh, good.
you got it.
From Animal Alliance of Canada. Now I say welcome back because back in our youth, what was like a year, maybe 2 years ago, we used to do the Rescue Dog Pod together, and then Bianca went and got all of a fancy new job and got all sorts of important, and I am still here in my closet. So she left me, but it is so wonderful to have her back. And for people that don't, know Bianca or don't remember or whatever, but Bianca is the Director of Development and Communications with the Animal Alliance of Canada. She has a background as a CEO of Marketing and Communications Consultancy and nearly a decade working in veterinary medicine. Bianca brings a unique blend of skills to her work with Animal Alliance of Canada. She is also the founder of a volunteer-based animal welfare organisation that focuses on community pet support, veterinary access, and humane animal management in partnership with remote First Nation communities. Bianca is also the president of the Grey Bruce Aboriginal Quimic team, I hope I said that right, which delivers spay, neuter and wellness clinics in Northern Ontario. She's also a proud volunteer with Big Brothers Big Sisters Canada, and Bianca balances her professional life and advocacy work with a deep commitment to mentorship. Her lifelong love for animals and belief in policy-driven change continue to guide her mission to protect and improve the lives of animals across Canada. And also, she also has a wonderful farm that she lives on with lots of, throwaway animals, sick animals and abused animals, and that you take on. So I'd like to welcome Bianca back to the Rescue Dog Pod. We're so grateful to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's so wonderful to be back.
Does it feel like you never left?
It feels like I never left.
It feels like, when we first started, we the internet was so bad, we couldn't get signal, and you were like, hey, let me go into this room. I think you ended up in a closet. Are you still in the same closet,
Yeah,
back in the same closet?
so funny. I'm close to the closet right now, but I'm not in it.
Okay.
But yes, I do remember we had struggles, but we made it work.
Yeah, so I'm so grateful. It's like having an old friend back, a comfortable pair of shoes, and the work that you're doing with the Animal Alliance of Canada is so, so important. And for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm really, really looking to get out my rescue stray dog support involved in more animal advocacy on the legal side of things, and the work that you're doing at Animal Alliance Canada is really in my wheelhouse, and I can't wait to dive into the things that you're doing. So before we get into that, maybe let's start at the beginning. How did you first become involved with Animal Alliance of Canada?
So at the time, there was a position listed for the role that I'm currently in now. And prior to me applying, I was thinking about my natural progression and kind of where I wanted to go next in the work that I do. And similar to what you're describing, like we're so used to doing the boots on the ground and the hands-on rescue work, but I really wanted to see where I could make an impact at a higher level, at a policy or a legislative level for animal protections. And I didn't formally have a background in the work that I now feel, I've been doing. It feels like I've been doing it for so long, but I didn't have a background. I had started actually working in, more population medicine and animal management with the communities that we work with in Northern Ontario and in Southern Ontario, and kind of doing more of the kind of community outreach and inreach work. And then, yeah, naturally, I just wanted to move into this. So the role itself, really the development and the communications, it's very much in line with what I did practically with my marketing and communications background. But the actual specialty that Animal Alliance focuses on is legislative and policy advocacy. So it's like I got to apply my skills that I knew from my past work experience into this area that I'm so passionate about. And thankfully, I work with a really great team of people, and they are all extremely knowledgeable. So they've been so helpful in kind of guiding and mentoring, and I've learned so much in just a year's time.
Yeah, I heard you were talking before we started about how much you love the people that you work with and how they're all,
Yeah.
passionate, and they're all vegans, which helps as well. And it's just a really good working community because that that you're all got this common goal, common core mission,
Mm-hmm.
and they sound like a really good bunch of people and very knowledgeable, like you said. And so, what is your current role? Like, what does your day-to-day work look like as the director of communications? Or
Yeah,
development and
so
communications, I should say. I can't leave out the development part. Very important.
yes, development and communication. So we are a small team. So I wear, just like everyone else, we all kind of wear many hats. Primarily, when I joined, one of the big focuses that we had was kind of revamping the current communications channels. So the website was relaunched. I redesigned that with the help of some of our internal team members, and then a wonderful website designer. So we revamped the websites, and then also the social media. Just kind of doing a lot of strategy work on the communication side. So how can we better communicate our mission and our work to different audiences? So our general public audience, maybe the longtime supporters, donors, and how can we build awareness to grow the supporter network online and through our email communication. So a lot of the work was focused on that. Naturally throughout the year, I worked on a lot of different projects. So we had a federal election actually not long after I started. That was called. It was a snap election. It came quickly, so we also, the Animal Alliance of Canada team also works, many of us work on the Animal Protection Party of Canada, which
Mm-hmm.
is a completely separate entity, but it's a registered federal political party in Canada. So worked on election stuff over there, and running awareness campaigns, and then also just the different campaigns that we do on the Animal Alliance of Canada side, just working to promote that, and then also working on the government, the submissions themselves with the team members, and making sure that all of our communications are really aligned. Everything that the group does prior to me joining even is very thorough work. It's very well researched work. It's very thorough, and then it's reviewed by other experts in different fields. So being able to be involved in those processes has been very eye opening. Seeing what that's actually like on the back end, it is, spoiler, it's an incredible amount of work that goes into
Nice.
everything. But yeah, it's just been a little bit of everything over the last year. It's been really fun.
So, for listeners that may not be familiar with Animal Alliance of Canada, so what is the organisation all about, and what are its core goals? I know you talked about the political party, and maybe you could talk more about that. But tell me a bit about Animal Alliance of Canada.
Yeah, Animal Alliance of Canada was founded, I think, over 30 years ago now, so in 1990. And the Animal Alliance of Canada itself really specializes in the legislative and political advocacy in Canada. So it's a national federal nonprofit, and the work that the Animal Alliance of Canada does, it's campaign focused. There are kind of core campaigns, and then there are other campaigns that the group watches and provides awareness on, either posting online or within the email group, or advises or works in collaboration with other groups on different campaigns. And saying that, most notably, one of the campaigns that the Animal Alliance of Canada worked on was getting the cosmetic testing ban in Canada in 2023.
Oh,
So in
really?
partnership with Yeah, with Humane Canada and a couple other groups. So they were heavily involved in that. And then, yeah, some of the other campaigns. Again, one of the more notable campaigns that the group's been working on since the 90s is the No Pets in Research campaign.
Yes,
Then
we're going
there's,
to talk about that because that's going to. I want to
yeah,
dive into that one. I know I'm preparing my. I need to get like numb for that because I know it's going to be some sad stuff and
that
stuff like
it's
that. So
tough.
yeah, it's tough. It's
Yeah,
tough. So
that's a tough one. But yeah, I mean, the No Pets in Research, there's other work that the Animal Alliance of Canada has done in animal research. The No Pets in Research campaign is pretty specific. And then there's all kinds of work that's been done on farmed animals and wildlife and, yeah, things like that over at Animal Alliance of Canada. And then the Animal Protection Party of Canada, again, that was a group that was formed. It was a political party that was formed by members of the Animal Alliance of Canada, and that was formed in 2005 under a different name at the time. It
okay.
was the Animal Alliance Environment Voters Party of Canada, so a bit of a longer name.
Well,
And then the group had a name change in 2016 to the Animal Protection Party of Canada. So all the work that the Animal Protection Party does is at a federal level. So that would be the campaigns that we do over there for the Defenseless campaign, which is working towards ending the use of live piglets in the military trauma
yeah, we're going to talk about
training
that too,
exercises.
Bianca.
Yeah, that one, and the importation of long-tailed macaques into Canada,
hmm
into the country for use in research. So that anything with the federal at the federal level and the federal government, we work on through the Animal Protection Party of Canada, and the Animal Alliance of Canada is a provincial call to action. So our No Pets in Research campaign is focused in Ontario, and then we have some the bear hunt campaign that is in another province, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so you do work. You're not just focusing on Ontario. You do the other area, one of the other provinces within
Hmm.
Canada. Okay.
Yes,
Are
yeah,
there other
yeah.
chapters of the Animal Alliance of Canada in any other provinces, or you are it?
We
For,
are it. The
okay.
operations are run out of the office, well, partly remote, and then also out of the office in Toronto. So it's a
Okay.
long-standing office space that the group had acquired in the 90s, and it was a very bustling hub for volunteers, and so the core staff is again very small, but they're out of there, and it hasn't been as busy since COVID, but we do meet there and work out of there as well. But we do have team members in Ottawa, and then we also have a team member in Manitoba. So we're a little bit spread out.
Oh wow. Okay. Very good. So
Yeah.
you mentioned it just briefly in some of the work that you're doing. So let's dive into it. I know I'm like getting white knuckled because I'm want to hear about this, but I don't want to
Hmm.
hear about this. So let's talk about there was three main ones that we want to talk about today which was the pets in research, the endangered monkeys into Canada for research, and the use of piglets in military trauma training. So let's start with the pets in research, and maybe talk about what was involved, where we're at with that. Talk about that project.
Hmm. Yeah. The No Pets in Research campaign began in the early 90s, and it had a pretty focused and narrow goal. And the reason for that was that there is so much to tackle in Ontario's Animals for Research Act that closing these two loopholes would be a start. So the main goals at the time were to close two loopholes. One is the pound seizure loophole in the Ontario has legislation called the Animals for Research Act. So Ontario is actually the only province in Canada that has legislation like that.
Mm-hmm.
And in that legislation, there is a loophole currently that, well, not so much a loophole, actually, it's stated directly in the legislation, but pounds, anyone who holds the contract with the municipal contract, so it could be pounds, it actually could be SPCA or Humane Society as well if they hold the contract, but it essentially allows any animals that end up in those facilities to be sold to research
Oh
if the
God.
research facility goes in. So yeah, it's pretty horrible. The statistics that are gathered, the team gathers them in a variety of ways, but through access to information, or FOI, like Freedom of Information Act requests, which is kind of at the provincial level. And so we can get more information about the Ontario specific numbers. And so we can see, where the source of the animals was. And so the pound seizure is a category. Pound is a category. Donated by owner is also another category. So the one thing that the group was trying to work to close was this pound seizure pipeline. Essentially, it allows animals to be sold to research facilities from pounds for less than $10. And then the donated by owner loophole. There's another that is a loophole they were working to close, because the donated by owner category could include animals that are going into a research facility for some sort of scientific study or practice with an owner, but it could also include animals that are picked up in municipalities that don't have roaming pet bylaws or stray animal bylaws. So if at the time it was dog catchers in the community or they'd pick up animals and pick them up as stray or at large, and then they could be donated to facilities through the donated by owner category that way. So the goal was to work on those two areas, and the Animal Alliance of Canada has really been working towards that for a long time with the trying to move the needle there. And then just recently, last year in 2025, Doug Ford, who is the premier in Ontario, made a public statement after a investigative report broke by the Investigative Journalism Bureau, and they broke a story about a London, Ontario human hospital that was conducting tests on dogs, heart tests on dogs. These were young dogs imported for the study. They were kind of beagle and hound mixes. And the story broke, and the premier was outraged, and he made a public statement that he was going to ban all dog and cat testing in the province, which was huge because the group came close on the goals of this campaign a few times, and then that slipped away. But with him making those comments, it gave us the opportunity to pivot. Like, we had to pivot very fast and change the call to action on the campaign and really mobilize very quickly and try to get the public involved on this and to keep the pressure on, because he made the statements, but there was actually nothing. There was no commitment in writing. So we really pushed towards, a public pressure and having emails sent to the office and making sure everyone had the verbiage that they needed and the words that they needed to craft very compelling, emails or written letters and to get that in. We also submitted multiple memos to the ministries responsible. So there's one ministry that governs the Animals for Research Act. That's actually it's actually the Minister of Agriculture, which is I won't even get into that, but it's the Ministry of Agriculture, and then to the Premier's office. So we made sure that we drafted the memos to the right ministries, and that all of our submissions were really rooted in fact. We had a lot of great information in there. We formed an advisory group as part of this initiative, advisory group on humane science. So that group includes academics, like professors in philosophy and ethics, and it includes medical doctors, researchers that do research without using animals, includes veterinarians and other kind of experts, legal experts as well, so that we had them review these memos and submit memos on behalf of us and our advisory group to really provide some credible information to the government to make sure that they put this.
Did you break?
Sorry,
something?
my headphone fell out.
See, this is how passionate we are about this. Like, she's breaking headphones. She's just probably her hands are going everywhere. I know, is that right?
my hand is flying all over the place. So anyway, we really made sure that everything that we were sending into the government was incredibly factual and useful for them, so that they could actually put something into writing. But then we knew that the challenge would come after that we had to make sure that the legislation itself and that the proposed changes to the Ontario's Animals for Research Act was actually, that it was strong, and that it really did protect dogs and cats, which is kind of the next phase that we're in now.
Okay, so we're at that stage where you're in the process of changing. So currently, the hospital that was doing the human hospital that was doing these tests, are they continuing to test, or has that stopped pending this, or is it continuing today?
So that study was actually shut down due to the public pressure. So the
Okay.
study itself shut down. Interesting enough, it just this week, one of the lead scientists put out an article in one of our news outlets that um, or interviewed in an article that he is standing by the work and believes that the work was necessary
Mm.
to cure disease. And so that came out as a result, but that specific place closed down. So what happened after the premier made those comments, and we all, worked hard to push to make sure that they had the necessary information to draft, the forthcoming legislation or any amendments to the act that they were going to draft. The Ontario government did put forth Bill 75. So there's Bill 75 is very complicated. It actually includes a lot of other non-animal related issues, but the research ban is kind of baked into that bill. And
Mm-hmm.
then subsequent, like at the same time, concurrently, the Ministry of Agriculture put forth regulatory, like a proposed changes to the regulations. And so the Animals for Research Act itself, they put forth changes. So if the bill were to pass, those changes would go through, and then the kind of two things would work together to provide the protections for dogs and cats in research. That's kind of what it looks like in theory. After we reviewed what they actually put forth, we realized that a lot of our recommendations were not included in
Mm.
the what they drafted, and a lot of people are a lot of groups and a lot of experts are not happy with what's been drafted. So our challenge now, and kind of what we're working towards now, is making sure our house is not they come back on March. They come back in late March, so we're working to make sure that that we really keep the pressure on, that there's a commentary period, and they're able to make some changes in this and not just bypass that period and pass this through into law.
So, and I'm so grateful for the work that you guys are doing, because people don't realize how hard and how much work is involved in trying to change and get protections that you would think a normal person would go, how could they do that? It's
Mm-hmm.
not easy. And like you said, you have so many different people involved in this to try to get this law changed. So it is very complex. There's a lot of people always say, well, why can't you just do it like that? Like you can just click your fingers and it's done, but it's a lot of work. And this is such
Mm-hmm.
an important, because I'm sure, I know that that's just one location. You can't even imagine how many other locations are doing similar. We have one of the largest beagle suppliers here in Wisconsin, outside of Madison, Ridland Farms, where
Mm-hmm.
there's legal cases against now because of the treatment of the animals there. But they are the ones that send out the animals to these different research labs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a very, very awful industry. And how confident are you guys maybe that things are going to change?
Well, it's cautious optimism. The biggest challenge that we're having is that there's no doubt that Bill 75 and the proposed changes to the Animals for Research Act will go through. The worry is that they'll go through without further consultation,
Mm.
so that they need work. There are some pretty huge gaps currently as it's written. So that the worry is that it will pass without us having the chance, and other groups and experts having the chance to provide comment and to be able to change some of these things to really ensure total protections. As it stands right now, if it were to go through without that, there is still room for invasive medical research to be done
Mm.
on dogs and cats. It isn't a total protection. There are exemptions, and one of them is if the research is deemed a veterinary purpose, but within there could be good things there, and there are bad things potentially there. The good things would be that if the research continued under veterinary purpose, if it was actually beneficial to an animal. So if, say
Mm-hmm.
the animals were going in with their owner's consent, and it was for these therapeutic studies that may benefit the actual animal themselves, then that's good, because
Mm-hmm.
then we can further the treatment of disease in dogs and cats for their actual intended, the veterinary purpose.
Right.
But the loopholes that remain potentially could allow, that it's stated that it's for a veterinary purpose, but maybe other things, they could do other things, and they could test, or they could, maybe mislabel, and the research could continue in different ways, and not in and still in invasive ways. So we're cautiously optimistic and very hopeful that that the period, if we keep the pressure on with the public and keep flooding the offices that are responsible, that we all are going to be able to make some change here.
That's really, really good. Do you know, Bianca, what happens to the animals that they test on? Are they killed at the end, or are they sent to where? Do we know? Do you know what happens to them, or is that you don't know?
Yeah, as of right now, they can only be killed, or
Mm.
they can be transferred to other research facilities.
Oh, geez. They go from
So
one to another. Nice.
yes, and so under this Bill 75 and the regulatory proposal, the new legislation that's being proposed, there is a section that mentions that that these animals could be adopted out, but there's no further information about what
Mm.
that looks like. So that's another thing we're working on is how can we, like, what will that look like in practice to ensure, and then who decides which animals can be adopted out, and then which animals, eh, like, if they were to go to sanctuary, for example, because maybe they couldn't actually go to somebody's home, then what would that look like?
Mm.
So they, that's being proposed. So there is hope that maybe that the dogs and cats trapped in the research system may be able to be transferred. As it stands right now, that's not the case. The other thing that Animal Alliance is trying to, prepare ahead of time, kind of emergency preparedness, is a rescue network. So specific to this, a
Mm-hmm.
rescue network, so a group of rescues in Ontario that, or shelters or rescues that would be able to support in case this happens and this passes, and there's a massive offload of these dogs and cats from these facilities, and they don't know where to go. We're trying to create this network of reputable organizations that can help and support, just to make sure that if they are being released and they're able to go into rescue care, what does that look like? Who are they going to? And then how can we support those groups that are taking them, for whatever potential costs
Right.
they may
I'm,
incur.
I'm
So
sure these
something
dogs
else
are
we're trying to
trauma.
do.
I mean, these dogs are going to be
Oh yes,
traumatized. I
yeah,
mean, I can't even imagine. I mean,
yeah.
at what point does somebody say, okay, this dog's had enough, this cat's had enough torture? I mean, at what point,
Mm-hmm.
who gets to decide that? And then, and then these dogs, I mean, they're going to be so shut down and,
Mm-hmm.
because they've been so, oh, I'm getting so angry, Bianca. I
Yeah,
can't even
I
begin to,
know.
it's so
Well,
awful.
it's tough, and one of the things that might make you and others even more angry to learn in Canada is that our the research oversight in Canada as a whole, it's governed, and I'm putting air quotes next to governed, by the Canadian Council on Animal Care. So that's the CCAC,
Mm-hmm.
and the CCAC is a nonprofit organization um, that only oversees the facilities that receive funding, government funding, or private labs that voluntarily agree to join the CCAC.
Mm.
But it doesn't include any facility that's privately funded
Right.
that doesn't want to share their animal use data with the CCAC. They don't have to actually report. It's a voluntary system. So we only know the statistics and numbers that the CCAC reports with the organizations that choose to be governed by them or
Mm.
choose to report to them. We have no clue what those numbers look like for any of the other private facilities. And so, one of the more recent statistics that we had was that in 2022, the research labs across Canada in 2022, of all of the animals that were used, which was millions, so we're thinking of the rats and the rabbits and the other
Mm.
species that were used, non-human primates, um, over 5,000 dogs and over 4,000 cats were sent to research labs in Canada in 2022. And of that total, in Ontario, from the numbers that we received, there were over 1,800 dogs and about just under 1,000 cats that were just in Ontario that were sent in 2022. So it's like the CCAC is a kind of a voluntary oversight body,
Mm.
and then the actual groups that are responsible for making these decisions, like you were talking about earlier, such as you know like, should we be using this dog or cat, and kind of signing off on the research, are these groups called animal care committees, and the animal care committees are internal bodies as well, and they're made up of people that it typically skews in favor of the research that's
Of
being
course.
done. It's
Of
it's
course.
it's
Yeah.
it's a biased
I
system.
was going to say,
Yeah, and
they're
then the
policing themselves. That's always,
yes, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So they're policing themselves. So that's even more frustrating to think about because Ontario is the only province that has the Animals for Research Act. So they have, you know, a different set of regulations and rules and you know, things there, but the act itself has not been touched in years. And you know, God, like over a decade, 2 decades even, I would say. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but the act itself is very old. It's not been updated, and it's just kind of there. It doesn't. The protections are not meaningful
Right.
in my eyes, at least. You know.
Well, I'm just hoping that you can get this through to make these changes, because this is something that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people who probably don't even know, or they do know, and I guess they don't want to know, but it's happening.
Yeah.
It's right in front of us. There are so many animals suffering, and something needs to be done about it. So I'm so grateful to you and the Animal Alliance of Canada for doing that, and we're gonna hopefully we can have you back on maybe at the end of March, and you can let us know, give us an update on that, because I'd love to hear that. And then the other thing that you were talking about was the use of piglets in military trauma training. I can't even begin to think what this is going to be about. I didn't even want to. I was going to
Uh,
research this before I talked to you. I was like, I can't even. I can't even. So I
yeah.
thought, well, let's have Bianca to talk about this.
Yeah, that's also a very very hard topic. So the this is an Animal Protection Party of Canada campaign. So this is one of the federal campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called the Defenseless Campaign. So there's actually kind of like a micro site, and I can send you all kinds of resources after for the listeners to follow up on after. But the Canadian government, so our Department of National Defense, they still use live piglets in the military's trauma training, and despite other countries and groups, including the U.S., actually moving to more human relevant methods and more human relevant and appropriate training methods, but we continue to use them here. A lot of people don't know that. The trainings happen in the base out in Alberta, and it's the Animal Alliance, or sorry, the Animal Protection Party of Canada actually released a report called Defenseless in 2022 that had a lot of information about this, and it was that was a report that was about a year in the making, and that includes all kinds of information and actual screenshots and records from our access to information requests from the government. So that's you make an access to information request, then the government will give you files, but the files are heavily redacted, so you take what you can out of them. But yes, they use them for tissue training and inject them with nerve agents and all kinds of terrible things. And then the idea is that they're having the um, the soldiers practice, saving them. So it's supposed to mimic field, like a field medic, and how to help their fellow soldiers. But this not only is obviously barbaric and cruel for the animals that are involved, but puts the soldiers at risk in my eyes, because this isn't a human relevant form of training or teaching or learning. Pigs and humans, though they try to say that they're similar in their systems, internally, they're vastly different. A pig's skin and a piglet, because they're 10 to 12 weeks old, the piglets that they do use, they're not adults, but even then, their skin is thick. It's not the same as placing a catheter, or they do tracheotomies and chest tubes and things on these piglets. It's just not the same, in my opinion, as doing that on a human simulator or something else that's more
Right.
lifelike. So
Why
I
can't they
feel it
do
puts
that?
the yeah, and
I can't understand
other
why
and
they can't
other
do that.
other countries do. So it's like over 70% of NATO member nations no longer use animals for their military medical training. So that's why it's like, why are we doing this archaic um, method of training in Canada? It doesn't make sense. And then we've got The defenseless report is chock full of information and factual information and, information about the anesthesia that they use and pigs reviving after being anesthetized and sedated for these procedures because of the pain. Like, what we assume is because of the pain. And the types of things that they do on them are absolutely terrible, like crush injuries, amputations, things like that they're trying to simulate as real world military injuries. So it's quite terrible. So the focus on that is to, of course, end the use of the piglets. But in saying that, we offer solutions. So what solutions are available? What type of simulators are available to Canada? What other methods can be used? And these are scientifically backed, expert reviewed methods. So we're not making this stuff up. It's all very factual. And so we provide those solutions in the report as well, and in this campaign as well, to the government with these, this type of work and these submissions. It's not, we're not just asking them to end the use and then it full stop. Like, we're stopping at that point. We're really trying to give them the other alternatives that are available that 70% of the other NATO members are using as well.
Do we know why they are not doing that now? Is it as a cost perspective, or is it just, what is the roadblock? What is their pushback on it, or if there is pushback?
Yes, one can only assume, I can't say anything in certainty. One can assume that it is a cost method, and also what they actually tried to argue in their, in the information that we've collected, is that it is the more relevant approach. They believe that it's the more relevant approach for training the soldiers, although even though, all these other countries don't believe that it is the most relevant approach. So that's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, no, I mean, but if I was one of those soldiers, I mean, that's traumatic. I mean, it can't be that pleasurable either for these soldiers to be the people training on these animals. I don't know how they would think that this was okay.
Yeah, and a lot, and many of them don't. Like, there's that, the human component of it that we take into account as well, is that it must be traumatic for at least some of these military personnel. And not only is it traumatic, it's also, again, I can't see how this would prepare you. It's a pig that you're taking and creating, you're putting them in this situation, and you're creating this made up scenario with this animal in this type of controlled setting. It's just, I just don't see that translating to real world combat situations, and how that could possibly prepare you the same way that some of these other simulators could. But, that's just my opinion.
Couldn't they just use, like, cadavers, like they do when you're training? Why do these things have to be alive? Why do these animals have to be alive? I mean, I don't understand. It's not like they can talk to you. It's not like, they can scream and you can see they're in pain, but I don't understand why we have to use a live animal.
Yeah. I mean, and the simulators that they come up with too there are very realistic simulators that bleed, that their heart rate, like, it's like a fake, that the patient is bleeding out, or they've got heart rate, like, it has vitals. It still performs the same way, like, in the sense where you are on the clock and you have to work to figure out where this hypothetical bleed is coming from, and stabilize this kind of this dummy patient. That's those are costly, the actual kind of model itself, but very human relevant in this context, and very it would be beneficial, in my opinion. It would be way more beneficial for the personnel to be using something like that, as opposed to this heavily sedated or anesthetized piglet on a table, with this manufactured injury that the personnel are inflicting on the animal. It doesn't make sense to me.
No. So, okay, so that's, so where are we at with that campaign? Is they're sort of trying to get the laws changed on that, and we're sort of just in the process of providing them information, Department of Agriculture?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the defenseless report is out. The original report is out. We're in the process of gathering more information, and trying to build on that to see where we can go. At the time, when the report was released, there was media coverage, and it was talked about, it was investigated, but it just kind of didn't go anywhere, but we're still working on it in the background and in the process of kind of updating and looking at it in a few different ways to see kind of where we can push this along. So it's very much it's one of our core campaigns at the Animal Protection
Fantastic.
Party of Canada.
And I'll put links, like you said, if you can send me over the links to that
Mm-hmm.
campaign and the research campaign, and I'll put that in
Yeah.
there so that listeners can go on there and find out more about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, and hopefully there's different ways that they can get involved as well. So, okay, so
Yep.
one of the other things we want to talk about is the endangered monkeys into Canada for research. So maybe you can
Yes.
talk about that on the importation of the endangered monkeys.
Yes. So the monkeys that are being imported into Canada are long-tailed macaques. So they come from different places, but primarily from Cambodia. And so, like ironically, we are still doing this. It was actually banned in the U.S. Because in 2022 there was a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was conducted a 5-year investigation into the sourcing of the monkeys that were used in research, and they indicted Cambodian government officials for this monkey smuggling ring that was going on. So they suspended the importation of macaques in the U.S., but the Canadian imports actually increased and they just kept coming here instead. And so despite that happening in the US, Canada continued to import. So thousands of monkeys come in. These are endangered monkeys. There are there is kind of evidence and investigations that have been done to look at this in a few different ways. So like, where are these monkeys coming from? Some of them are from breeding farms. They could be wild caught as well, and kind of part of this trade that's going on. The monkeys are flown here on very, very long flights, and they're in these small wooden crates. And they're flown here, and then they are the largest importer here in Canada is a lab in Quebec, actually, and they import them there for research purposes. And so, what happens to them after they end up there, we actually don't know. We we know some things actually, but we don't know. We can't say for certain. Where they go after that. But yeah, it's pretty terrible, and we've been working towards putting a stop to that as well. The campaign, we actually had a federal e-petition that had thousands of signatures, and it was read in the House. We had a wonderful MP who sponsored that, MP Boulerice, and it was read in the House, and it ultimately didn't end up going anywhere. There was a pretty blanket response. I was about to say excuse, but response that was
Same
given
thing.
to us. Yeah, and it was not in our favor. There's since been a subsequent e-petition that is active right now. It ends like the public signing period ends in late April, and so we've got over 1,000 signatures. We're working on building that petition up because it has very, very specific asks this time that the regulatory bodies here and kind of like the federal bodies responsible that could make a change. It has very specific asks for them that are within their power to change. So we're hopeful that really narrowing the scope and having the kind of call to actions for the government be within their wheelhouse and something that they really do have access to change, hoping that makes a difference because, if this is read, they really have to explain their reasons as to why they're not, going ahead with that. So hopefully our continued research and awareness around this issue, it helps push this along, but it's something that's, it's kind of that frustrating thing where you feel like you're making progress and sometimes these things stop. Other times you get little wins. So hopeful that this goes somewhere.
Is there that petition that you talked about, the e-petition? Is that something that we can sign outside of Canada, or do you have to be in Canada, or can you give me a link to that after, and I can put that also in the at the end of this podcast? We can put a link to it so people can sign that as well, or is that something that we can?
Yes. Yep, I will send it. You have to be within Canada, but I will send that over. And then you can have it for any of the Canadian supporters as well. And we can, really bump that up. It would be great to get as many signatures on that as possible. And I'll make sure that you have the campaign page for this too. The Animal Alliance of Canada, the Animal Protection Party of Canada had actually photographed because we track the imports, so we see when the transports are coming. They land in Montreal, and so there was a flight in July of last year in 2025, and we had a photographer there that was actually taking photos of the crates, so you could
Oh
see what
gosh.
type of crates they're transported in and them being unloaded off the plane. Um, and we have a lot of photos and other evidence and information from other groups as well of the monkeys. And yeah, this is a campaign that some other groups are involved in as well. So yeah, I can make sure you have all of that
Yeah, that'd be really
information
good.
too.
I'd love to get that on because I think this is so important. Because a lot of people just don't know that this is going on, and we need to bring
Hmm.
awareness to this. And that's a big part of what you do in your current role is to bring awareness to this. So, you talk about those three, some of the three main ones that you've been working on. Is there any other ones that you're working on, policy initiatives that you can talk about, campaigns?
Um, Yeah, so there are some other the human wildlife conflict campaigns that we do work on as well, like the Manitoba Bear Hunt campaign. So there is that campaign out in Manitoba. There are some other there's a one type of like a species of bird called cormorants that
Oh yeah, the
are
cormorants.
here
Yeah.
in Ontario.
Mhm.
Yeah, so working on a campaign with them for a specific park that is still culling the birds. And so the Animal Alliance of Canada is working on stopping that. The Ontario parks, this has been a very long running campaign that the Animal Alliance was working on. They were successful in stopping a cormorant cull in 2009 at a different island, but now we're focusing on another island, the Point Pelee National Park. So that's another campaign, and then there's all kinds of other kind of partnership. We do a lot of coyote awareness around this time of year now that mating season is just about wrapping up, and so we see a lot of coyotes in Toronto and different city centers. So doing a lot of awareness posting
Mhm.
and cross posting of partners about human wildlife conflict and how people can live peacefully with coyotes instead of
Symbiotic
the
relationship.
default. Yeah, the default that a lot of people have is, oh, just trap them and move them, and a lot of our education is about why you
You
can't really
can't.
do
They're
that. And
territorial, and they you like it's like
mhm.
turtles. I think they only like live in the 1 mile radius their whole entire life. You just simply just can't pick up an animal and move it. That's just not how it works.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
don't know that,
so
but that's a big part is doing the education piece, and you guys do a lot of education, which is really really important. And
yeah.
were you guys involved in anything? I know was it something like those canned hunting things where you had like a small space and then you can use dogs to hunt animals or something.
Yes.
What was that one about? Because
Yeah.
my friend, Lynn, she told us about that one. I was like horrified. What was that one? Is that something
Was
that you
the
guys
pen
involved in?
dog.
Yeah, the pen. That's
Yeah,
it.
the pen dog hunting. The Animal Alliance of Canada did do some work on that, but not
Okay.
that I can speak to really because I haven't worked on it myself. But what I do know is that the Ontario government regressed. I think there was actually some progress on these training and trialing compounds, and then the Ontario government regressed in that, and I think repealed, um, our premier reinstated this technique, even though it was kind of phasing out. So that came back up, and so I know that the Animal Alliance wrote in, and there had been some work on that, but it wasn't one of the core campaigns. But we do some work on that.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Well, that's good.
but
That's good. Well, broadly
yeah.
speaking, how do you view the current state of animal rights and animal welfare in Canada? Just like where are we making progress and where we're falling short? Is like, being in that world. Do you sort of see
Mhm.
it getting better, getting worse?
I think that the public sentiment has changed for the better. I think
Mm.
that that the movement itself has really progressed. And I
Mm.
think that the public is getting a lot more involved. The public is a lot more willing to learn from what I'm seeing, at least just from the social listening aspect. And, in working with on the campaign side, the public is more willing and ready to mobilize, which is amazing because public pressure is so crucial to a lot of these campaigns and for progress on these campaigns. I mean, we saw it very clearly with the Doug Ford situation, the Premier Ford making those comments after seeing, the investigative report come out about that hospital in London. So that was largely pushed forward by public pressure. So I think that's really moving ahead. As far as the actual laws themselves here go, I think that we have more work to do. And I think that there are some great representatives that are willing to work on this with us, and there's some MPPs and MPs that have been fantastic in the process. So I think if we collectively keep moving forward and get more public and different people educated on the topics, then we can really push ahead. I think also the experts that we've worked with our advisory group have been absolutely phenomenal, but there's all kinds of other experts and people that I've met along the way and that we know that the more we like the other stakeholders we can get involved that aren't directly related to the animal welfare, animal rights movement, but they can bring value to it.
Right.
Whether it's scientifically or with a legal background, and maybe they have some interest, but they have a lot of knowledge in that specific area. We have to remember that those people and those individuals can really help push things along as well. So getting those groups and people involved are very it's very important.
Wonderful. And like for listeners who are feeling like pretty overwhelmed or unsure where to start, how can everyday people get involved and support the work of Animal Alliance? What they're doing? What can they do to help you?
Yeah, I think that the main thing would be to follow along or to reach out if there's something specifically that you're interested in. So if it was animals in research, or if it was the Defenseless campaign, for example, to reach out and to get all the information you possibly can. The websites are a great resource, but we do have a lot of information. I will say we have a lot of wonderful long-term team members and experts that work within the Animal Alliance of Canada that have produced papers, reports, species accounts, like all kinds of information. So reaching out and seeing how you can get this information or finding the information online on our website, educating yourself on the topic, and then kind of reaching out to see maybe it's an MP, like your local MPP, that you reach out to your representative to see if you can secure a meeting about one of these campaign topics, see what they can do. We had a wonderful MPP in the Toronto area, MPP Kristen Wong Tam, who is been so wonderful and really kind of supporting or trying to support the No Pets in Research in whatever way possible. And so trying to secure these meetings with your MPP is really the first start. Being educated on the topic, the awareness, sharing with your network, and then signing petitions and completing the actions that we have. We use actually something called New Mode, where it's a really great platform where we draft an email that you can edit. So you can go in and add your own comments, but we draft the email with the facts of the campaign and kind of what the direct ask is based on what we're working on. And then you can find those on our website as an action item, and you fill in your name and your address, and then it sends it to the relevant ministries or MPPs or MPs, and then also it CCs your local MPP. So it's a really great tool that you can submit, kind of an e-petition of some kind, but then also signing those federal e-petitions that we have really make a difference as well.
And what's the website so people know they can? If you just say it like slowly, so people can get a pen down. What is? And we will put the link to the website with in the information when we release this rescue pod. But what is the website so people know where to go?
Yeah, so the Animal Alliance website is animalalliance.ca, and the Animal Protection Party website is animalprotectionparty.ca.
Okay.
So you'll be able to see on both of those websites the home pages themselves, but then also on the homepage, if you scroll down, let's start with the party, for example, you'll actually see that the platform itself There are other areas of the platform, so you can kind of explore what that looks like. There's animal protection, environmental protection, and health, and more stuff there. And then you can see any of the recent news stories, and then you'll be able to look at the campaigns a little bit further on there and kind of updates and different reports. And then with the Animal Alliance of Canada, same thing. You'll see some recent news in our campaigns on there. You can see how you can support. You'll be able to contact us. Any of that information is
Perfect.
there too.
And do you have places people can donate if they want to support a campaign, or you don't take donations, or anything like that?
We do take donations, yes. So the both the political party, the Animal Protection Party of Canada, and then the Animal Alliance of Canada both receive take donations. If you live in Canada and you give to the Animal Protection Party of Canada, there is a tax benefit to that.
Mm-hmm.
If you donate to the Animal Alliance of Canada, it is a nonprofit organization. So there are two different organizations there you could support.
Wonderful. And you guys have social media, I'm sure. You have your Instagram pages and things like that. Maybe just give a shout out to those, because I really want people to really follow your work. I'm going to encourage all of my listeners to go and look at the work that you guys are doing, because it's incredibly important. So if you're into the social media, where can we find you, Bianca?
Yes, that would be wonderful. The Animal Alliance of Canada is Animal Alliance of Canada on Instagram and also on Facebook. So just kind of the whole organization's name spelled out. You can also find us on LinkedIn as well with Animal Alliance of Canada. And then Animal Protection Party is just Animal Protection Party on Facebook. And then it is Animal Protection Party on Instagram, and then the same for LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. And I'd love to have you back, maybe in a few months, and you can give us an update on some of these campaigns. Also, I'm sure you're probably working on other campaigns that I don't know if you can share. If there's a little tidbit of anything else that you're working on, just quickly, high level perhaps, or is that all hush hush?
That's, I think, just what I mentioned so far are the main things. The No Pets in Research campaign for the Animal Alliance of Canada is a really big focus right now for us.
Okay.
There are a lot of moving parts there, so there's a lot going on over there right now. So that is definitely one of the highlights, and then the long-tailed macaques and the defenseless over at Animal Protection Party. But I'll be sure to give you an update when I am back with you and let you know where we're at with all of these things.
Oh, and perfect. And just quickly, we talk about all the darkness and all that, but you have had some amazing wins, through the work of Animal Alliance. Maybe just share just quickly so that we can leave our listeners on a high note, something that maybe a success story that you guys have done, where you've changed something.
Yeah, so the again, most notably, the cosmetic testing ban was one of the huge wins in 1991. I don't think a lot of people know this, but in 1991, the Animal Alliance of Canada also they worked with the government to stop the importation of sick and injured or genetically compromised puppies from the United States, actually. So when the regulations were passed, it resulted in a 73% decline in the number of puppies that came into Canada. It was something like 24,000 were coming in, and it reduced the number down to like 7,000 annually. So that was a huge win, because a lot of the puppies that were coming were being sold in pet stores and being used in puppy mills and things like that. So that was a huge win. And the cosmetic testing ban, and on the No Pets in Research campaign, there have been wins along the way, and Animal Alliance of Canada was actually successful in being able to ban the sale of lost pets for experimentation in some municipalities across Canada. So that's a huge win as well. And then there were other things in the farmed animal and the hunting space. They for hunting, for example, Animal Alliance was instrumental in banning bear spearing as a method of hunting in Saskatchewan and Ontario. And then also in the past, animals they were called downer animals, so
Yeah.
animals that were not well or falling down during transport, or sick and injured, they were still being able to be transported, and Animal Alliance worked really hard on that and was able to actually they reviewed the downer animals, and they were able to win a national ban on the transport of downer farm animals. So that was a good win as well.
So fantastic. So you can make a difference, people. So if you're listening and you want to support this, it's all about pressure, peer pressure. The power is with the people. So please continue to fight for these animals. Go and support Animal Alliance. They're doing a great job, like I said, and I'm really grateful, Bianca. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and for the work you continue to do for the animals across Canada. And I say keep on trucking, man, because you're doing God's work out there. So thank you so much, and I want to thank everyone for listening, for being here, for caring enough to listen to the hard conversations. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to follow and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podbean. And you can also keep up with us on social media by following us at the Rescue Dog Pod. So until next time, hug your animals a little tighter, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much, Bianca.
Thanks so much for having me. It was wonderful.